how I learned the truth. Every now and then, I get a guy or two who will comment on my videos and say something like, man, it was never our job to take care of a woman. It was never our job to marry a woman. Women are meant to fend for themselves. They're meant to survive on their own. Um, you know, uh, we were just meant to like have sex with them and have kids with them and then go on our separate ways. They'll never know how to respect us. They'll never know how to treat us good. You know, um, they were always scandalous from the start. They were never meant to be with us, right? I'll have guys who honestly believe stuff like no marriage has ever been successful. I've heard men say this on my channel. No marriage has ever been successful. It never works. And I just want to let you guys know, I have aunts and uncles in my own family that are in very successful, happy marriages, where their wives worship them. Because you guys got to remember something, right? The perspective I bring you guys, what makes it unique is that I am not a white man, okay? I am a Middle Eastern man. So I've had access to a whole different side of the world, and I've got to see men from a whole different side of the world and how they do things and the results they get, right? There's a reason why the Middle Eastern countries are one of the very last few that have their women under control, right? There's a reason why the Middle East is one of the last, like, I guess, I don't know, nations, if you will, that still can keep its women under control and the man is, worshipped and the woman sees the value in the man, right? There's a reason for that. And so when guys tell me, it's not possible, here's the thing. Just because you've been living in dysfunction for so long doesn't make dysfunction normal. You see what I'm saying? The thing about the West is we've been living in craziness, right? We've been living in a warped society for so long. After a while, we start to think it's normal, right? It's like I don't know. It's like if you live under racism for so long, after a while, you start to think racism is normal. These things are not normal. Just because you've been, the frog in the boiling water for a long time doesn't mean you're supposed to be in boiling water. It's still dysfunctional. It's still not natural, right? So I guess my point is that's how I learned the truth, really, by being a Middle Eastern man and having old school Middle Eastern relatives and seeing how they respect and worship their sons. Even my mom, she's a single mom, but she always knew the value of having a son. She told me when I was pregnant with you and I knew, me and your dad were splitting up, I prayed to God for a son. Do you know why she prayed for a son? Because she knows the value a son can provide, right? A daughter to her, she even told me, would have been like dead weight. She was praying to God she didn't have a daughter. She didn't want to have to, it's like dead weight, basically, she told me. She didn't want that responsibility. She knew a son can provide a lot more value. And over in the Middle East, men are respected for that. And their way goes, right? Their authority is the law because their wives understand the value. And in the Middle East, if a wife gets divorced, she is viewed, and this might not necessarily be a good thing, but she is viewed as like damaged goods, just for being divorced. Like a woman whose husband left her or they get divorced, another man doesn't want to be with her after that. That provides a lot of incentive for her to put her all into the marriage, make sure she chose the right man and stick it through the tough times. And a lot of the times when a woman or a man sticks it through the tough times, you realize, oh wow, I'm actually glad I stayed with that person. And then that makes the relationship stronger. See, what makes a relationship stronger, and my mentor, Warren Lance, was talking about this in a video yesterday he did. He was talking about how love isn't determined until after you go through tough times with somebody, right? True love isn't romantic fairy tale, Disney garbage. True love is sticking it through someone with the tough times and realizing you still want to be with them after that, right? And then your bond grows stronger. See, in the Middle East, they're forced to do that because divorce is shunned upon, especially for women. So it just creates it creates like a natural balance, if you will. It just works so much better, whereas in this country, women are like pressured to get divorced. Like, yeah, girl, leave him, take his money, take his kids. Like, yeah, on to the next one, and then she never really gets anything. She never really, because she realized, oh, wait, money isn't what I wanted. The kids aren't what I wanted. I wanted a loving man to be with forever. I shouldn't have left him. But then they've realized that when it's too late, right? But my point, guys, is that here's the thing, at the end of the day, as much as I hate to say it, it is men's fault because if men here held women to the same standard that men over there did, women wouldn't be able to get away with anything. Women can manipulate all day, but we have sheer power, okay? Women can play mind games and all these little tests and stuff, but it doesn't matter, okay? Because we have the power, to make them whatever we want them to be, and they will rise to the occasion. But men don't exercise their power. Feminism is nothing without men, right? You have a police force full of men, okay? Feminism can't exist without male law enforcement behind them, protecting them. When your girlfriend or your wife gets mad at you and she wants to file a false rape accusation, who does she call? She calls the man to come take you away, right? She doesn't call the female police force. A female police force is useless, right? She calls the man to come take you away. If the male police force wasn't behind feminism, feminism wouldn't even exist, right? Women only have the power men give them. You see what I'm saying? Women have zero power without men, right? If all the men and all the women in the world went to war, women would go extinct, right? So men, if men here adopted the same value for themselves that men in the Middle East did, men here would have all the power. Now, I will be honest, there are some extreme situations in the Middle East where men just take it over the top and are abusive to their women, and there are some things that I look down upon, that, Arab men do that are just too much, but what men over here are doing is too much, is too bad, in the opposite direction. I mean, men in the West are letting their women walk all over them so badly. Like, it's just so ridiculous. It's like it's just as bad as over there, if you want to say like men over there are abusive. To me, this is just as bad, just in the other direction, There has to be some sort of balance, I guess. But either way, if we had to pick one or the other, it's still always better when the men are in control. You know what I'm saying? The society still functions more naturally when the men are in control versus the women, even if it can be somewhat abusive at times. A female-run society is chaos, is a disaster. You leave a woman by herself. Like, for example, women in America, when do they make the biggest mistakes, right? When women make the biggest mistakes in their lives? It's not when they're under their dad's supervision, and it's not when they're under their husband's supervision. It's that free time they have in their late teens and early to late 20s where they're off to college, they're experimenting with other girls, they're getting like the stupid job at Starbucks, they're racking up student debt, they're learning how to drink and smoke and have hookups. Like, you leave women to themselves, you leave them by themselves, and all they do is destroy their lives. For the most part, they don't make logical decisions. You know what I'm saying? They were really meant to go straight from like daddy to husband. They weren't meant to have this like, sisterhood of the traveling pants, find yourself, that's, eat, pray, love, vacation for like 10, 15 years where they just wrecked their lives. That's not natural. And I don't know, the fact that men give that to them in this country, the fact that men here just let women get away with murder, that's really just the whole point, guys, is we have the power to make the changes. Women don't have any power. They only have the power we give them. And you have countries like in the Middle East where men keep the power and things stay in line. You have countries like, like America, Canada, Europe, where men give all their power away and women walk all over them and destroy them. So when guys tell me like, it was doomed from the start, marriage never works, women will never respect us. No, you're just not exercising your power. You're just not taking your value away from them. I don't know, maybe because I'm a Middle Eastern man, I'm just a little different. But for me, it's like death before dishonor. I'll die before I'll take disrespect from a woman and just keep going with her. I'll die before I'm in a relationship with a woman and she's disrespecting me for months and months and I'm going to just keep taking that. Like, dude, no way, no way. So I don't know, maybe Western men need to adopt some of those mentalities and principles. Maybe we all have something to learn from each other. Maybe there is no master race. Maybe everyone can take a little bit from each race and, I don't know, use that to better themselves. Who knows? But all I know is men in those other countries are still getting exactly what they want. I have aunts and uncles and grandparents that are in happy relationships and marriages and get exactly what they want from their wives and get the respect they deserve. And anyone can have that if they just had the values, if they just held themselves to a high standard. If men just drew a line, if every man just drew a line in this country and said, no, we're done taking that and we want what we deserve, after a while, women will rise to the occasion. It might take a couple generations, but it can happen. So don't ever think that this dysfunction is normal. Don't ever think that it was always like this. And don't ever think that the rest of the world is suffering the way you are. I hate to break it to you, but there are men out there that are happy and getting exactly what they want from their women, and still living the normal life. So just because America is sick, just because the Western world is sick and dysfunctional, doesn't mean the entire world is. So that should be some kind of motivation for you guys to like start making some changes. Start exploring other options and start holding people around you to a higher standard, no matter the cost. And that's really just how I learned the truth, guys.